Hello folks, just having a quick walk around the yard. Just on the inspired a bit by Farmer Phil's video, I thought I'd do a yard tour of our own. This little pointy bit here is the end of where the new trees are going to go. And if I turn around, you can see how it gets quite a bit wider. Those two gangly looking poplars are going to come out and get replaced with some nice English oak, because they're nearing the end of the days. There's a dead branch on one of them, and once we plant this with quite a mixed set of trees, I can't remember exactly the species that's going in, I'll leave that to the estate's forester. But once this gets planted up, it'll be very much more difficult to get them out, and they most certainly won't outlast these ones. So now's a good time to replace them, and that's to form a bit of a shelter belt and replace some trees that we took down last year. That was the shelter belt to the old, what was once a beef unit, which is that long low shed there that's had pigs in it for the last 30 years. Those trees are 45-year-old, come to the end of their days, and started falling down. They're alders and elders and fairly poor quality stuff like that, really. Put up for a windbreak back in the mid-70s, and had reached the end of the day, so they had to come out, and they didn't necessarily have to be planted back in the same place. So we took this wet corner off the field, because behind there is the ponds where this farm's called Brickyard for a reason, and the clay was dug out to make drainage tiles and bricks back in the 40s, 50s and 60s, and all dug out by hand. So consequently this land here is sort of like 3 foot of blue clay and then running sand below that. So it's often wet, sheltered by the trees, north facing, didn't grow much. So we've levelled it off by the corner of the straw shed, just up there, lined it up with that to build a pig shed here. Now we got planning 2 years ago now, but for various reasons, not least input prices going absolutely mental, nobody could fix us a quote to build the shed, just in case everything got dearer, and you can't finance and plan on that basis. It's ridiculous. So we put the project off a little bit. We didn't have the spare finances because inputs of everything else that we do was going skyrocketing as well. So we put a lid on it for a bit, and now I think we're coming to a point, even though interest rates are rising, I'm 46, we're getting to a point where I need to get the thing built. So it's built as an L shape, sort of 100. The old shed's 194 foot long. So the new one's going to be 180 foot long, 40 foot wide, and run parallel to the existing pig sheds, which you'll see in a minute. And then an 80 by 90 off here, and I think we're going to build the long narrow one first this year with a bit of luck. Just a quick look on a bit of machinery as we pass it. We do lack some machinery storage inside, with far too much outside really. With potato harvester and topper and combine and baler and various other things sat in other people's sheds. Over another yard we rent with a potato store in it. There's some old sheds there, old fold yards and stuff, where we've quite a bit more tackle parked. But what's here? Good old Vodostat drill. If Phil Monkman's watching it, you might recognise this. I bought it out of York Sale, but I believe it's Phil's old drill. We bought it to drill cover crops with. Drilled about 250 acre this time. Quick, simple, easy, get plenty in the hopper. As fast as you can pull it, it'll drill it. It's a good old thing really. We haven't used it for any cereals yet, although we made it at some point. It has got some wear in it. It has done some acres, but it was cheap. It does what we need it to do really. Now this old lass, she's a bit different. This was bought as a toy really from Richard Furby a couple of years ago. Partly to teach my girls how to drive, but she's 50 odd year old is this old lass, and there's a bit of wear and gear linkages, and it's not that simple really. So they haven't really done much with it just as yet. However, we opened up its track width from 56 to 72 inch this summer, and made ourselves some hybrid wheels. We had the rims. They had all 11.2 48 row crop tyres on them, and we sold the tyres to somebody that needed them because we weren't likely to use them. Might as well sell them as have the same all crack up. And then Digby welded these hang lines to it. Why, you might say? Well, she's not built for comfort with them on, clearly, but that's more for running water off potato fields down running up and down the wheelings of the beds, and so that these create little divots to run the water off into the rows rather than making a channel that goes down the row and creates a lot of runoff. So this was a bit of an idea I had, having seen a few row dammers of one sort or another. We have a row dammer, which I'll show you in a bit, which is a bloody awful thing. It's fastest way to get rid of your harvester driver is that thing. It's horrendous. I bought that for 100 quid and decided there was better ways. So this is the better way. It's not as bad as you think driving in a field. It's terrible in the yard, absolutely terrible in the yard, but it's not bad in a field. Tractor weighs about 2.5 tonne. She turns on a 6pence. It's not bad to use, to be fair, it works all right. And we're doing less and less cultivating as we go on. We had a shakerator that we've had since I left college in 1997. Bought it out of York Sale. It's like Trigger's brush. You've seen a lot of things attached to it, and a couple of years ago it got really bad for holding points on. We couldn't get old type legs anymore. The new legs won't hold the points on. So we pretty much nettle bedded it. The packer on it was knackered. And we bought this from a farm sale near Driffield. Good tool, very good tool. You would think that them legs are 600mm apart, I think, if I remember rightly. She's 2.6 metre working width or thereabouts. It's a good tool. It's not major on disturbance. We don't really want that. Fantastic after potatoes. Excuse me. Going into wheat, it does a good job. If it's going to come dry, it can just leave things a little bit open. Whether it wants a better packer on the back, I'm not really sure. Following it combination is fantastic, and it's not anything like as cruel to a tractor in terms of the power requirement or weight hanging off the back of it, or just the abuse it gives the linkage. That's something like a trio. And the points as they are, they've got tungsten on them. We've put ferrobide up the side. We've put some. Those are actually old wings off a Norfolk Tyne bar, no Cochran drill actually. We welded them on because we had them sat on the shelf and they're only going in for scrap, so we thought we might as well use them. Eventually they'll probably get ferrobide put on them, but that reduces the amount of time we spend changing metal quite significantly, because them points do disappear quite fast in a dry time like we just had. Jimmy Barrett trailer, one of a few. Drop flat low loader. We actually bought that second hand. We bought it when we had a rigid tiller and a 4-metre combination. Used it quite a lot back then. It's sort of quite strategic now. It doesn't do anything like as much as it once did, but still a very useful thing to have on the fleet. We haven't seen that much British kit yet. We're quite patriotic in our choices. With 4 Easterby trailers, I think 5 Easterby trailers. This 14-ton tipper is the newest. She came in 2019, 5-year-old. It still had the paint on the floor. I've just left some water in front of it, but quite a lot of water in it actually. There's no paint left on it now. It's nearly taking the paint off the sides as far as the front. It has done quite a bit of work while we've had it. Good trailer. It's a bit heavier than 12s, but it shifts quite a bit more as well, so that's useful. Now this Stewart was a recent addition. I actually bought it on the strength of the photos. Probably not the best move. It pulls well, it stops well, it's not a bad trailer. The axles are quite a bit further forward and they're a little bit further apart, I think, compared to the Easterby if you look. Which puts a bit less weight on the tractor. Not necessarily a bad thing for carting corn, but not necessarily a good thing for carting potatoes. And the big difference between them, which is why it's actually for sale, is this one for us. Great for tipping in low sheds for corn, brilliant, fantastic. But that pivot, where the body pivots at the back of the trailer, is a good bit. If you look at the Easterby is only 9 inches. This is about 14, I think, from the end of the body to the pivot. And because it's lower down, whereas the Easterby's near the top of the chassis, the Stewart's near the bottom, when it's tipped, the back of the trailer's down here. And when you're tipping into our charge hopper, that's a major pain, is that. We finish having to run the trailer up onto ramps, which I hate doing. I don't like the safety risk. It's not ideal. It's a bit taller in the sideboard, which I suppose the body being mounted a bit lower in the chassis helps that from a filling point of view. But in terms of body shape and the geometry of it, I do far prefer the Easterby. You struggle to find them Easterby trailers like that these days, so we're looking at a Triffitt actually. If anybody knows where there is one. And this is what we affectionately refer to as Digby's Press. It's a poor man's trouble scratcher really. It was at one point in its life a double press. We bought it pretty much as it is now. The previous owner was a contractor in Lincolnshire. He'd put tyres in between, he'd taken one row of rings out, sold them, and cannibalised an old Triple K to get a bit of a scratch. And it's alright, it rakes better jackpot tines in it than Triple K tines. It rakes a bit of straw up. The attraction to us was it's 6 metres wide, doesn't take a lot of power, and you can get on with it. So you can cover quite a lot of ground quite quickly, because we don't like spending a lot of time and fuel on recreational cultivation. We'd rather be on with job. So it's alright. It wasn't ideal this time because it was so dry. Work in progress. As a general rule, we tend to be bargain basement to start with, prove the principle, and then invest in something better. Old Ruley trailer of irrigation pipes, courtesy of a local farmer's sale 10 years ago. Bowser came from another local contract farmer, well, local 10 mile away. He used that for fertiliser. He doesn't actually go at yard very much at the present moment. We don't have any liquid fert tanks, so it serves its purpose as a mobile tank really. This is one of the smaller irrigation pumps, but actually the best one of the bunch. Good old Perkins 6534. She's come home because she's usually sat in the shed away from home. But we've brought it back to wash that nurse tank out. That's a recent addition to the fleet, which I'll tell you about in a minute. Another Jimmy Barraclough trailer. We supplied him the axles in 2010. He built us this. If you want a flat trailer, Jimmy Barraclough at Malton is your man. Without any question, the very best trailer we've ever had, particularly for straw. It's 33 foot long, it's 8 foot 2 wide. It follows absolutely perfectly. You can load it however you like. The tail doesn't wag the dog. There isn't major amounts of swing on the back. The axles are in the best place they could possibly be. Transfers enough weight to the tractor to get some grip, but not too much to put everything out of balance. It's brilliant. We'd have another, but we've actually got a 25 footer that suits our second trailer position better really. Can't say anything about it really. Once it's getting to an age, it's 2010, so she's 12 going on 13-year-old. It'll be 13-year-old this next spring. It's done a lot of work for us. She's ready for a respray before it gets too bad really. Probably won't happen this year, but needs to be happening soon. And this is the oldest Easterby trailer. She's seen a bit of strengthening. She's seen a lot of life. It's a good job it can't talk. My brother tipped it over on so far windings when it was 3 months old. It seems to have survived that. It's nearly worn its second floor through. We did put it in York sale twice actually, in July and August. It nearly got to reserve, and I decided at the 11th hour on the second sale, it didn't quite meet reserve, and instead of letting it go, I decided we'd fetch it home because these old trailers, they're just useful, aren't they? She's got some scrap in it, my nicks have been tidying up. If we're on busy tatey and all the rest of trailers are busy leading taties, then somebody, me basically, can muck out and use this. We're not going to be short of a trailer. For what it's worth, I think we'll keep her for the time being. She is getting a bit rough. The uprights are nearly all rotten, which is why it's got Mal put this in. Braced her up maybe 5 or 6 years ago now. But it does what it says on the tin. It doesn't do anything like as much work as it once did. But it's days of leading corner, long gone. But occasionally it'll do a bit of stock feed taties or muck or anything like that. Spare beat trail or whatever you want. Big old Cavernland plough. She's a 7, 4+3 wagon plough. Pull that with 180 horse, 200 horse maybe. As fast as you like really. But we use it for ploughing tatey land. That's about all it does now. But it replaced two 5 fixed width ploughs. So one man can plough tatey land just in front of us needing it instead of 2, and he's still got time to do quite a lot of other stuff as well, which does work quite nicely. Now this nurse tank, ex-Conning, bought it out at York sale. We've bought it for rainwater storage. Now it's not the cleanest inside, it's in some digestate and slurry and things. But it'll make a 60 cube rainwater storage facility and fit between 2 sheds is my hope, because we get through quite a bit of water in the pigs, and we've drilled a test hole for a borehole and found that we're far too high in iron for it to be treatable and practical to use. And I know what it's like with having too much iron in water, you finish up with a lot of corroded fittings. So we've gone off the idea and moved towards rainwater harvesting. We'll give that a try. The boom isn't actually mine, it belongs to James Doyle in Staffordshire. It's hired for some Mercaton trials that we did last summer. I do believe it's for sale, but whether with that much appetite to use the thing, I'm not really sure. It's a bit of a bind compared to a gun, really. This was almost a repeat of history, was this. Of like plough, 5 for a hydraulic vary width. It's very simple to use. It makes a very good job. It's got floating headstock on it. It's good to set up. It makes a very good job. We like it a lot. It replaced a rough old dow as well that I was sick of mending. It doesn't do a huge amount. It's been ploughing Beetland last, that's why it's on a big tractor. The 7.4 is a bit unhandy in small fields with this is ace. The reason I say it's a repeats history is because Dad bought a Ransom 5.4 for a 43, 2 plus 1 plus 1 way back in the late 80s when Ransom stopped making ploughs and Yates' a lot to shift. Bought it fairly cheap, and at that point in time we didn't have a tractor that would lift it, never mind pull the thing. But the price was right. He couldn't hardly justify it, but he wasn't going to get that chance again, so he bought it. This was 12 grand. Shop soiled, 3 years old, maybe 4 years old. Never been in the field, but sat in dealer's yard. Dealer wanted to shift it. It was one of 3. There was a fixed 5 for a fixed width, a 6, and there was this. We bought this because it can go on at smaller tractors as well as bigger ones. We already have a 7, so we felt a 5 was a better fix. A 6 for a fully mounted is a big lump at the back of a tractor. 5's to me is the limit, really. No regrets, brilliant. A little bit more than I wanted to spend ideally. Quite a bit more actually than I was looking to spend to replace Dow as well. But you don't get chances like that very often. Sometimes you're going to bite the bullet and put something else off. This is well, she's a set disc with some legs in. She's a Simber SL, 4 metre Simber SL. You can adjust the angle on the discs. You can adjust the depth on the legs. Good point there, boys. And there's a packer on the back. I would have preferred a proper DD rather than the DD Lite, which is what that is. I think they make a bit better job. A double DD Lite would be alright, but we can't fit one of them in. We used to have a set of discs that wore out that causes a lot of bother with each packer. Again, something else we got sick of mending, really. So we bought this, how many years ago now? 3, 4 years ago, I forget now. Good tool, I like it a lot. Yeah, it's alright. A lot of farms have one of these. A simple scabby old tanker. I bought it in 2017, I think. For sucking water out of potato tram lines in the wet season. That's its main job, that's what it was bought for. But since we wash potatoes, it sucks the washer out. If we've got a pit to suck out or anything like that, it does that. Septic tanks, you name it, sill traps in the yard, anything like that, it's just handy. I didn't pay a fortune for it. It's more than paid for itself in what it saved us in hire, which is what we're doing before. Good old tanker. She's a bit old. It's getting a bit tender in places, but for what we're using for, it's fine. Bit short straw storage this year. We've got quite a bit more carryover. That's barley at that end, oats at that end. There is a sheet on the top. Some of that is for sale, although what will probably happen is that we'll use that ourselves and sell some of the dry stuff out the shed. Just a bit lack of demand this time, really. 7620, she's came new to this one. 15 reg, 8,200 hours on it, I think. Tidy old bus. I was on 20.842s. It puts the power down fantastically. With a 7.7 on 650s, and it'll lose its feet for fun. With this hard lash, she just digs her toes in and off she goes. It's auto guide ready, it's got air on it. It did have auto steer fitted, but when the 7.7 came, the rolls swapped around because of rocket wheels primarily. This one took over from the previous with the 7.7 replaced another 7.620, where they had the same hubs, so the rocket wheels would fit straight onto this one, but not on the 7.7. So that's the main reason why the rolls swapped around. This became the TT Harvester tractor, and the 7.7 took on the drilling. And this main rolls ploughing primarily because it's on 20.8s. It now does the de-stoning. It didn't used to, but it does now. Heavy cultivation's a bit of baling, occasionally a bit. Didn't do that so much baling this year, but that's usually its job. Lifting potatoes. What else does it do? Pulls carts. Does what you want to do, really. It's quite handy for 200 horse tractor. Now across the rollers are on. We usually find that in December. But I was rolling some cover crops on the frost just before Christmas, that's why they're on. 6.3 metre flexi coil rollers, a bit like that Ransom plough on about. It's a lot of people in this area have got 6 metre flexi coil rollers, because when flexi coil went bang, there was a load of badly painted rollers needed at home and they were cheap, and we were one then that bought a set of Russells. 6.3 metre breaker rings in it, good old rollers. Although since we've gone down the Missouri dual route, we could do with some heavier ones and some wider ones, some 8.0s. Don't really want 12s, I want 8.3s really, so I can still pull them with smaller tractors, and it avoids the half bridge on the outside of the field to get the roller tractor running on the tram lines. These are 2003 of these ones, they've seen a bit of time. And in the front, what's referred to as my tractor really, 15 Ridge 7618. Sits on rocket wheels a lot of time, which is why, for all she's got 6,000 hours on, tyres look like they've done about 1,000. Because she was, well, it looked like this when it came, like new. The thing, it came from an AD contractor in Shropshire. I bought it through RVWP in Wales. 1,500 hours on it, 3-year-old. It's now coming up to 8-year-old in March, and she's got 6,000 hours on. Doesn't do quite as many hours as it once did. But a very well balanced tractor. It's nimble, it's handy, it's powerful, it's brilliant really. It's probably, if I had to sell all tractors and keep one, this is probably one I'd keep. It is that good. I'm a little bit biased because I drive the thing, I suppose. Flexi coil press, a York Sale Special. Double press, rigid tines. We like rigid tines better than spring tines, so we've always gotten better with them on front presses and things like that. This thing's seen more York Sales than Avalon, didn't it? But eventually, whoever was selling it relented and let the thing go. Must have got sick of paint storage charges at York, I guess. We don't use it a tremendous amount. It's working ploughing down this time that gone a bit hard on us. It's alright for that job. Put it with a 6480. It's not glamorous, it'd be better with a shatterboard in it, but it does what we want it to do really. Now this thing here, one of the best machines on the farm, certainly one of the most valuable machines on the farm in terms of the work it would create if we didn't have it. Spreader bale, she's 2020 this machine, came when we changed TM JCB. It's been picked up. The end of it lifts up, you drive up to the end of a bale, you turn the floor backwards, the bale feeds in, you shut the end down, cut the band off, stick it over a pen gate and bed up with it, and you can bed 1,200 pigs up in an hour and a half, 2 hours on your own, no bother. It replaced one that went from 2003 that we paid 4,250 quid for. It put about 12,000 bales through it in the time we had it. We sold it in York for 3,450 quid. So less than 1,000 quid. It was on its third belt. We had to beef the drive up because the drive on this version is very much better than it was on the old one. But it was absolutely minuscule, was the cost of running it compared to what the savings had been. Super, absolutely super. That's why we didn't demo anything else, we just replaced it with the same again really. Right, well, to do some more another day when it's a bit more daylight. Bye for now.